here I am still. I still don't have a 5 blind success. So, you know what? I have something personal against 5 blind. Fuck you, 5 blind.
Oh my god.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Overinspected episode 15. It's your boy Manu here, along with the 2 other boys. Alright. Wow, this is really embarrassing. I forgot their names.
Man.
Carrie and Chai. Yes, there we go. Jesus Christ, dude. That's really
Boys.
sad. How do I forget like my friends' names? Okay. Anyway, hi. Episode 15. We're back yet again, once again with another episode. Today we're bringing you a very controversial episode. Today we're talking about which events we hate and we think should not be events whatsoever. They should be removed from the WCA, and they should never have existed in the first place. All right. With that being said, boys, what do you guys think? What is the worst event in the WCA today, and what is your opinion?
Well, I think first of all, hate is a very strong word. We
Okay,
should
fair
just say have minor disagreements with, but also clock.
All right. Well. All right. So clearly, Carrie's opinion is completely invalid. Chai, what about?
Oh no.
Well, I first wanted to make a comment. I think like it is a more controversial episode, but to be fair, I guess theoretically the last episode was controversial too. So
Yeah.
CubersLive going back to back with the controversy, just stirring up
We're just
all
piling
the
up
hate
all.
today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
We're piling up all the haters.
Hey, targets
Oh,
on our backs, you know, like any publicity is good publicity. So we'll
Yeah,
take-
exactly.
This is
Yeah,
all
exactly.
part of our plot
Exactly. If
and
you
our
think we're
scheme to
morons,
grow.
share. If you think we're morons, right? Share this video with
Share.
a friend. Don't just say like, oh yeah, you know, I heard these guys. They were talking
Yeah.
shit about your event. No. You should share this with them, so then they can get angry and that they can share it with their friends. You know.
and comment.
Yeah. Definitely comment and be like, you guys are so wrong. You have no idea what you're talking about.
But yeah, as a sidebar, I just wanted to mention that. But I think clock is an easy choice, and then maybe Carrie,
Alright,
if you
well.
want to like divulge more of your reasoning after. But for me, the worst WCA official event is probably, and I feel like this is probably less popular than what Carrie's gonna say, but I probably have to select 5 blind.
Okay.
That's okay.
Yeah,
Okay,
it would probably have to be 5 blind. And,
Interesting.
yeah.
5 blind I can get behind a little bit more than clock because last week I was doing 5 blind because it's the last event I needed to complete my profile. It was like once that's there, then all 17 events will have a result there. But I messed up pretty royally. I was doing 5 blind just fine. And then, so I'd done all the memo. I think the memo was good. The memo was memorable. Well, clearly I don't remember it now, so maybe it wasn't that bad.
The memo was memorable, and you don't remember it.
All right. Well, anyway.
In the short term.
Like, let's write that out. Let's like how many M's are in that sentence.
So I go
We
to
find some synonyms.
So I go to start doing memo, right? So then I do X centers, I do plus centers, and then I do midges. And then after I do midges, I realize, wait a second, I forgot to execute parity for X centers. I knew that I had parity for X centers, and I just totally forgot to execute it. By this point, it's 40 minutes into the solve, and there's only 90 minutes total. I average about 45 minutes on any attempt at 5 blind. So I was just like, okay, I have one of 2 options. Either one, I can go back and undo midges, and then undo plus centers, apply parity, and then do those 2 again, and then, you know, continue on with the rest of the solve. Or I could just DNF right then and there, and just forget about it, move on to solve 2, and try and make the best out of that situation. So clearly I took the DNF because I think that was the best decision, and then I failed solve 2. So here I am still. I still don't have a 5 blind success. So you know what? I have something personal against 5 blind. Fuck you, 5 blind.
Oh my god.
I mean, you made the right choice. Because, like, it was just way too much to ask for you
Yeah.
to be accurate going backwards and then resolving after your parity, applying
Well,
parity.
I think I could have done it, but I think it was just more like, you know, like I think you're right actually, because then I have to be accurate going backwards, right? And then I need to be accurate again going forwards on, you know, even if there's like a 10% chance I fail, there's only if there's a 10% chance I fail and I have to do something twice, then there's like what, like a 1% chance I don't fail? No, that's not how anything works.
Well, anyways,
No, it's
like
81% chance
80,
you don't fail.
81%
it's not
chance
just
I don't
an.
fail.
I mean, it's not just an accuracy thing. I mean, maybe you know better than I do, but in your memo, theoretically speaking, maybe you're just way off. Like, even if you went backwards and you went forwards, like, what if your memo was just wrong from job? Like,
Okay, so
just,
I guess
many
that's
things
true.
could have
That's
happened.
true.
So many things could have theoretically happened just from you going back, and then because you solved
Right.
in general. Like, if you're faster, sure, but if it's like at the risk of you potentially not having a second solve, then you totally made the right decision. Like 10
Right,
times.
right. You're right. It's just like, why give myself more opportunities to get it wrong, you know? And I'm gonna lose time. So okay, yeah, I guess you're right. But anyway, this is totally not relevant. This is just why I don't like 5 blind and why I'm struggling to complete the profile. But anyway, yeah. So that's one reasoning for. So wait, so we didn't talk about. So what is your reasoning? Why do you think 5 blind is the worst event?
So there's a couple things here, and I think people probably know where I'm gonna go with explaining why I don't like 5 blind. I respect the event and I respect the skill needed, but just in generally speaking, planning for 5 blind as an organizer is not super straightforward. The demand for it isn't crazy high. Not a lot of people are going to register for it, but there are going to be some people that are interested in it. But those some people are like, you know, I'm trying to think of your idea of like 2012 Sing Ode 3 or something like that. You know. I mean, editor in the sky, you can add it as the correct WCA ID, what I intended to say. But anywho,
what does that mean?
Well, what I was going to say is, like, these guys who are signing up, they're going to be pretty slow. It's going to take a while. Like, it's going to take a huge portion of your time and dedication to even just do it, for example. Not just the organizer, but the competitors themselves.
Right. Yeah.
No, of course it's not. And it's like comparing 4x4 to 5x5 or 6 to 7. Of course, it's not a carbon copy of 4 blind. There are extra pieces like midges, like you say, or like added wings, right?
I don't know.
The centers.
Yeah.
I don't know. Now that I've messed around with this, I think I have a better idea. And honestly, it kind of just is 4 blind. It's like 4 blind and 3 blind put together, and then also plus centers. But plus centers are not particularly interesting. They're not that hard. I feel like I have decent... Well, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I feel like I have decent accuracy with plus centers. I think they don't really add that much to it.
It's just essentially. But I do think that there is a slight difference. It's just that the amount of time that it takes to hold the event just doesn't scream at me that it's worth it to also hold it and also have 4 blind. That's the other thing.
Right.
Like the fastest blinders in the world, like still take a while to do it. Like DNFs happen literally all the time. Would
you say that?
Yeah.
Like,
what was it?
Oh, 5 blind takes longer than 7x7 even, right? Like that.
Yeah. No.
That's
What I'm saying is like 5 blind takes way longer than 7x7.
Yeah. So I guess what I'm saying is, like, compared to all the cited events, I could see how it's like you have to allot a certain time of the schedule when no other events are happening because they'll be too loud.
Well, yeah. I mean, there are workarounds, right? So, like, for SAC, when we did a favorites competition, like, you can combine events that people didn't double register for. So, I could theoretically, like, we could theoretically make schedules for 5 blind. It's just... And it's also the other thing, like... And this is an argument for 6 and 7. But the leaderboards are very similar. 5 blind leaderboard is smaller. But the leaderboard is just... Like, it's the same. I mean, I don't know. I might need to be fact-checked on this, but I could assume.
You're right. I mean, right now, the same person who holds the 4 blind world record also holds 5 blind. It's Stanley. And I think that if you go back to any point in time, that will generally be true.
I mean, it makes sense, right? It's like a very similar... It's an extremely similar skill set, and the key differences are 5 blind is bigger, so you need to have more room, and then you just need to have good execution to be able to do it.
Right.
And then the jump from 3 blind to 4 blind is quite massive.
Yeah.
And I think like in terms of like cubic puzzles, and this is where it kind of gets a little bit gray area. Like now I'm starting to sound like I'm trying to get 6 and 7 axed, but I mean in realistic sense, if I used the same logic, I would just axe 7 by 7.
There you go. Yeah.
But it's just, like 5, 6 are a little bit different in a sense that I see a lot of different styles. First off, 5 Yao on 5 by 5 is a lot more beneficial, and it just seems to be there's less of a trade-off on 5 by 5 if you just use a lot of TPS in comparison to efficiency on 6 and 7. I find efficiency to seem really important. Ironically, though, it's Redux that is more popular on 6 and 7 right now.
Yeah.
Do you think it would ever make sense to get rid of 6 by 6 but keep 7 by 7?
No.
Would that be weird?
No.
I don't know. I feel like there's like an overarching theme to this a little bit that maybe we can go into a little bit more, but I guess maybe before we do that, did you even have an event that you considered that the most hated, Manu?
So I think we need to get rid of 7 by 7 if we get rid of something. So okay. I think
Well,
and let me answer the Carrie's thing, right? Like I don't think that there's a world where we get rid of 6 by 6 but not 7 by 7. I think 7 by 7 is like significantly less interesting than 6 by 6 because at least 6 by 6 you can have like all 3 parodies, right? Whereas 7 by 7 you can only have like 2 varieties of the same parody, which is not that parodies. Interesting.
But also the highest level 6 by 6 solvers can put 2 parodies in one.
Okay, that's kind of interesting.
I don't know if people have heard about that, but you know the edge parody, the last 2 edge parody, or like there's like a single edge, like a flipped edge.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the middle edges are flipped and the outer edge pieces are not flipped.
So it's an Olo parody.
No, it's not Olo parody.
No, it's not an Olo parody. It's like an edge pairing parody.
It's like a checkerboard, yeah. So the edge pair is checkerboard, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And then what some people do is if that edge is of the opposite or the same opposite cross color. So if your cross is white, if that's a yellow edge that has the parity, if you preserve it, you get all the way to the last layer, you can actually do 2 parodies in one. So you can solve Olo parody and solve the edge pairing parody, or you can not solve Olo parody and solve the edge pairing parody.
Right.
I mean, people do that on 4x4, right?
Yeah, it's Galaxy. I think people. No, I don't. I mean, there's not really much.
There is no edge pairing
parody on 4x4. Yeah.
I guess on 4x4 I just meant that like some people are pushing for solving OLL and PLL parody at the same time.
That could be possible.
Yeah. But I mean, this at the end of the day, sorry, Manu, you can continue, is another thing that that just doesn't exist in a lot of other events.
I don't know. To me, like a 7 by 7 is just 5 by 5, but like, haha, we added 2 more sides to it. Like I don't know, not 2 more sides, like two more layers to it. Like, I feel like it is not more significantly interesting than 6 by 6, but I think 6 by 6 is like at least decent. Because at least 6 by 6 is like, okay, like, yeah, you can see it. It's like the combination of 3, 4, and 5 in some ways. Like, okay, like, sure. At least that sort of makes sense. 7 by 7, I don't know. I find it very, very uninteresting to watch. I find it really uninteresting to hold it. I find it really uninteresting to solve it. And it's just like, okay, like, I think it's just like it's not particularly. It's just like, I don't know, it does not, it's like a Marie Kondo thing, right? Like, this does not spark joy in me whatsoever.
So get rid of it.
Right.
Well, okay, I'm just thinking, if we look at other sports, well, not sports, but other, like, competitive hobbies, if there's something like running, it's like, if you look at the distance that people run, it's sort of, like, exponentially increasing, right? Like, you have, like, 100 meters, and then you have, like, 200, 400, and then, like, there's 1,600.
Mm-hmm.
So, not saying that the WCA should do this, but I wonder what it would mean if we had like 2x2, 3x3, 4x4, and then like 10x10, and then 22x22.
Jeez. Well, we'd be sitting
like
in there for a
marathon
while.
of cubing.
I see your analogy, and I understand that. Like that would first off, and I think I can tell that you can tell that probably wouldn't exist. But
Yeah, it wouldn't. Yeah, I can tell it wouldn't exist just because it would take people hours, and we don't want that.
Yeah, no, but like I think the thing about the track, which is actually a really interesting point, because that would be conducive as a model for an argument to hold longer events. But it's just a reasoning, and I think like those exponentially longer track meets, like 1600 meters, 800 meters, it's a test of your endurance, right, and how much energy you can expend.
Yeah,
I think so. And then I don't think that's not really a thing in cubing. So,
right.
I mean, in theory,
yeah.
If we could, I don't know. I don't know if there's a skill such as endurance, like something in cubing that equates to endurance.
Well, I think if there is, then it's multi-blind probably. That is probably the easiest thing that you can equate to endurance. Like, you need to sit there, you need to memorize all these cubes, and then you need to do them all.
That's true.
And then if you have like 60 cubes, like this is an insane feat, right? So if there
At
is
this
an
point,
endurance-based
yeah,
event, then it has to
pushing 70
be
at
multi-blind for me.
Right. Wait, Carrie, I don't think we ever asked you why do you hate clock the most?
I'm kind of joking. I mean, partly.
But is it actually your most hated event?
I mean, I don't spend my nights thinking about what do I hate the most.
Really? Really? You don't go to sleep every single night
Manu
thinking...
is like your main event, so I was sort of like doing it just to like jab at you, but I feel like it's not very spectator friendly.
Okay, fair enough.
And I know that like the big blind events are also not spectator friendly. But yeah, I know like I feel like everything I would say has already been said before, but it's also not really like a polyhedron. I don't know if that's a requirement, but everything else is poly. I'm getting a thumbs down.
I don't know. I cannot get behind that. That's a weird requirement.
No, I think the one that you're talking about is like it's not a twisty puzzle, right?
Yeah, it's not a twisty puzzle. I mean, the phrase twisty puzzle, you could argue like, on a clock, like
we have FMC. Why do we have FMC? Like that's not a twisty puzzle. You're literally writing. It's a test. That's what it is. We should get rid of FMC.
Well, I mean, the cube itself that you're rating for is a polyhedron. Twisty puzzle.
It is in relation to a twisty puzzle. To be fair, I'm not saying like, and I'm not saying clock does or doesn't fall under that category. But I mean, yeah. Honestly, at this point, clock is just not that. For me, clock is not easy to hate now, or it's easy. It's easy to like now.
It used to be a lot worse.
It's just the hardware. Like that's like for me is just so. It was so easy to hate in the past compared to now.
Well, yeah, because for multiple reasons, right? One, the hardware was trashed here. Like you would get all these clocks, right? And then like sometimes so I remember the old Ling Out clocks used to have this problem where like this is pre-magnets. The pins would not stay in the right position because they would just get worn down after like years and years of use. So once those pins get worn down, the pins won't remain in their position, which it constitutes an illegal puzzle. So first, you have to throw away things like that. Secondly, some people will compete with a puzzle that's completely brand new, right, and impossible to turn. I've had to deal with way too many of those while trying to scramble clock. Those are awful. Third problem, which is probably the biggest problem. Before we used to have dedicated cube covers for clock, it was a mess. Clocks would fall all the time, and when clocks fall, the pins get reset. And this is a major issue because then you need to go and get the pins to get reset before bringing it back to the competitor, just to have the stupid thing fall again, right? So that was also a horrendous nightmare. It was a logistical nightmare. Thankfully, we've solved many of these issues because we have an affordable clock that has really, really good hardware. We have custom cube covers, and I forgot what the other thing was, but we probably have whatever this third point was.
I mean, it's just it's good now.
Yeah, but I memes aside, like I do see the fact that probably the only reason we had Rubik's clock in the first place was added to the WCA was because it used to be a Rubik's event, right? Before the WCA changed everything to remove the reference from Rubik's everywhere. Now we just have 3x3x3 cube. We don't call it the Rubik's cube anymore. And clock is now just clock. It's not called Rubik's clock. But so you're probably right. That probably is the reason why it was originally added. Same with I think Magic and Master Magic. I think those were the Rubik's Magic and the Rubik's Master Magic. And eventually
Yeah.
people realize like these events are trashed here. Like, you know, they're not interesting events. They cause us a lot of problems, so we need to get rid of them. So I can get behind that. That at least it is a reason, I guess.
I mean, Rubik's Clock is definitely a tier above Rubik's Magic, so like, I'm not gonna say that they're the same.
So I heard a story from Paul, because Paul was at our place last weekend for a competition, and he said that the way Rubik's Magic worked, it was kind of like stacking, like cup stacking.
Right.
Because it's just one solution. It's just how quickly you can execute it.
Mm-hmm.
So what some people would do way back in their day would tell their judge, I need a practice session. I'm going to practice a couple times before they actually do their attempt or whatever. I don't know how it worked back in the day, honestly. The fact that it has one solution is just so... I wouldn't even understand why it's a competition at that point. But and then what they would do is when they got a really good time, they would be like, that's my time. They would abuse a new judge by saying like, that's my solid time. So like if they got a really good attempt and they had a new judge, the person would be like, please write down this time. This one counts.
What?
And there's gotta be rules against that.
I mean, sure, but this was way back in the day.
Wait. So to bring it back into modern terms, right? That's like me coming up with like, okay, I'm competing in 3x3, right? And then the judge has the cube in front of me, and then I'm just like, oh, I'm gonna do a couple practice solves. I do a couple practice solves without even looking at the cube that I got for my official scramble. I just say, oh, hey, I got an 8. Like, please write this time down. Is that how it worked?
Essentially, but except that's essentially how it worked. But I mean, obviously, you're not presented a scramble.
Yeah, I think the
Right.
difference with Magic is that you
It's
have
just-
perfect knowledge of how the Magic's going to be when it's presented to you.
It's purely execution. So it's a lot like cup stacking. If you guys ever watch how cup stacking competitions work, they always start and then they're like, oh, I didn't get a good one, and they go back. They start and they go back until they get a good start. I think they have a couple. It's like false starts.
I think the speed stacking competitions are pretty well regulated against that stuff.
Yeah.
Like-
No, they have a couple like attempts. Like they can like
Yeah.
it's like an extra, but like they get a couple practice sessions, stuff like that. Like
Well,
it's all in regulation.
Sure, but we also get a couple.
I think they go with like a best of 3 or something like
Right,
that.
we also get a couple attempts, right? So, and I think that's fair. It makes sense. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it protects against some sort of stochasticity. So that's not necessarily a bad thing. But I guess what
Yeah.
would be bad is that, like, if you get like unlimited attempts, right? Or it's just like, oh, like you know, I tried it like 10 times. Here's the best one. That doesn't really make sense. It makes more sense as like best of 1, best of 3, best of 5.
I mean, we kind of touched on this a little bit, but this is what I was trying to refer to back earlier. I did discuss it in like a previous podcast episode. I don't exactly remember which one. It was about adding events, but just the concept I was bringing up earlier with 5 line and 6 and 7. The problem is that like there are some problems with the event inherently, but at the moment, if you were to consider like why would I hate this event, and if I hate this event, why don't we remove it, and is it a popular opinion, I think there's a good chance that it might be a popular opinion of the bad features of the event, the bad components of the event. The problem with removing the events in general is just the communities have already been so nurtured. It's like
Right,
before it was in recognition, like before you add it, like the community hasn't been nurtured yet. But now that you're nurturing this, it's a lot harder to take it away.
Right. You're just telling all these people like, hey, you're really good at this. Haha, joke's on you. We're actually getting rid of this. You're kind of alienating.
We're
them, is
taking
what you're
away
saying.
your privilege, basically.
Right. I kind of want to ride this point a little bit and kind of pivot away from like, okay, like yeah, we talked about events that we don't really like. Now, I guess we're now talking about removed events, right? So this is probably one of the most controversial things that has ever happened in the WCA: the removal of feet.
Yeah.
What were your guys' like thoughts on like feet getting removed, and including the entire process? You know, because I think at some point like it was officially announced that they were discussing that feet was going to get removed, and then I don't remember, it might have been like a delegate vote or something, and then like the board made the decision, and then it went into effect. So like kind of like the whole process. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
I feel like I guess to be honest, I found myself caring less than I thought I would. Well, maybe that's
Right.
because I don't practice feet ever. But I think, you know, while it was happening, I was leaning towards not removing feet, just because like you can always just have an event in the database that competitions rarely host. So if you hate feet, then just don't put it in your competition. But the people who do practice it should at least, you know,
Be recognized.
be given the respect.
Like literally, well, like yeah, because like the event was added in, and then people started practicing, right?
Yeah, like they're only practicing it because it was made official, like however many years ago. They wouldn't have started doing it if it was an unofficial event.
I'm gonna be honest.
Yeah, fair enough.
I don't remember because I don't remember if it was a delegate vote. At the time, I was a junior delegate. So if you know what a junior delegate is, you don't have a vote. That's pretty much the difference between a junior delegate and a regular delegate is that your voting rights are not there. But honestly, I don't remember if it was. I don't think it was a delegate vote, but at this point,
I could be totally misremembering.
And honestly, kind of like Carrie, like I truthfully didn't care, because I mean, people who were in the Bay Area at the time knew that we didn't really hold it that much, anyways. We probably hold it like once or twice, give or take, maybe 3 times a year. I mean, I would already consider that a lot. But I didn't really care that much. I found that a lot of people. So here's the thing that I don't know if a lot of people remember. Whatever year that the vote happened and then the removal happened, not the vote happened, whatever year the removal happened on January 1st of that new year, 2019 or something. The year previously, the WCA announced that feet will be removed unless there is a serious movement against it, yada yada, something like that. And then pretty much 10 months pass by, nothing happens. 11 months later, I think WRC releases something specifically like Lucas, because we know Lucas, like it's happening, and then everyone just starts going like, oh no, you can't do this, you can't do this. It's like you had a whole year to say something.
Yeah, are you saying that like the real feet supporters should have started a ruckus earlier so they have
No, I'm saying that a lot of the real feet supporters did like support it the whole year. Like I know for a fact like Daniel Rose Levine like cared a lot about it. Right? So like just the fact that they're competing, stuff like that, like hashtag Save Feet, stuff like that. But the movements, like the intense movement of like just being against removing feet, a lot of it came from people that I'm not entirely sure if the amount that they actually cared matched the intensity that they brought. Because at the end of the day, like when you talk to Lucas too, like when you talk to him about the whole feet scenario, you can tell like shit hurt. Like just to even do it, like a lot of responsibility comes in making these decisions.
Right.
So it wasn't made lightly, just so anyone knows that. But yeah, I mean, that's the experience that I saw. I mean, what I mean by I saw is Cubix's friends and any YouTube videos that were related to feet. But yeah, there was nothing that was said in that entire year until maybe like October. Pretty much is when and that was like a similar time when the WRC was like, it's happening.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Because I remember when I was like, I was on the sidelines watching all this happen. The only thing I really cared about was, I think at this point I was also relatively close to full profile. Probably the only things I didn't have were feet, average, and then probably big blinds. Those are probably the only things I didn't have at this time. So I thought feet getting removed would have been a good thing. I was just like, okay, like good. This is something I'm never going to have to do because then, I can get full profile without it. But then I was just like, okay, well, if feet is going to get removed, then no one will be able to do this ever again, right? So I was just like, I guess this means that I should do it, so that way it will be on the profile forever, and it will never get removed, and you'll be able to see that I had done it. So, but then also, I don't know, I guess I took a little bit of offense to the way that it was all carried through. I feel like at any point, if there was any what is the word, protest against removing feet, it should have been considered, even if it were later in the year. I think it doesn't really make sense that like, okay, like, oh, we didn't hear, like, where were you for 8 months or whatever. It's like, okay, fine, but like, this was like not the most important thing for people to deal with for 8 months. Also, I think another thing, I don't know, one thing that I remember from this is that it was, at the time, it was like, okay, feet is going to get removed, and it seemed like it was really one-sided at the time. This is just what I remember. Maybe I'm totally wrong, and if I'm wrong, then I deserve to be corrected. So correct me if I'm wrong. But it was like, okay, you know, if the WCA can just like eliminate any event that they want, like without like it was not too difficult to remove feet in the end, right? I don't think the reasonings behind removing feet were that great. I think like the best reasoning was it makes us look weird, which okay, fair enough. Like it does kind of make us look weird, but then again, there are a bunch of like weird quirks in many other competitive hobbies, right? So, and then the other thing was hygienics, but I think
that's like, the main one I remember.
I think we've kind of fixed hygienics now, considering that, you know, we with all of COVID and everything, we have to deal with a lot of hygienic stuff anyway. So I think actually probably doing it with the feet would probably be potentially more sanitary than doing it with hands or whatever. So I don't know. At the time, I was like, okay, this is not. I feel like these are not the greatest reasons. Feet is just kind of getting removed, and like, yeah, there isn't that much like backlash against it because most people probably just don't care. Most people are like, okay, feet. Why would I ever do this? Like, yeah, maybe we should just like it doesn't matter to me. So I don't know. I guess those are kind of my thoughts, and this is also why I think like removing events is like a very difficult thing to do. And because A, you know, we already have the communities to do it, right? And B, like, we don't want to just be able to threaten to remove any event willy-nilly, right? Like, yeah, I joke around that, like, you know, 7x7 is a trash tier event, clock is a garbage event, but we don't really want these events to be removed at a blink of an eye. And we want them we want these things to take time, right?
I mean, I think that if I had to choose, I had, like, all the power to do whatever I want with the WCA. I don't want any event to be removed. And I only say clock because it's like, oh, we have to pick something
right.
to claim to hate just to keep things fresh. But I think, like, regardless of the hygienics or making us look weird, I think it's just, a scary precedent that, like, oh, the event you practice could also get removed. And I guess maybe this wasn't their intent, but it sort of reminds people that like everything is like tentative. You know, you don't know what could be an event 10 years from now.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe that's taking it a little too far.
That is reading pretty deep into things. I will say.
Like 3x3's not going away.
No, I wanted
that'd be dumb.
I wanted to fact check a lot of the things that was mentioned, and then so I went in, and this is like anyone can find this from the WCA website, but you know, there's a GitHub thread, or I don't know what you would call GitHub threads, issues. GitHub,
I think the way it's listed is probably an issue. Yeah.
It looks like a Reddit like post basically. Essentially, it just looks like a Reddit post, like comments, stuff like that. So, this sounds like it makes sense. It was a long time ago, but it sounds about right. In November 2017, the board proposed a plan. If feet couldn't hit certain metrics, that it would be removed as an event. And then the GitHub post was created in the following year, 2018, and then feet just didn't hit the metrics, essentially.
Yeah, but I think I remember one thing from back then is like, okay, like, sure, we gave feet this ultimatum, right? It's like, okay, you need to hit these metrics by the end of the year, and if you don't, then we're gonna remove you, right? But I think like feet was not even the least popular event to be held. I think less often held than feet were 4 and 5 blind actually. So it's like, okay, like why did you pick feet out of all of them, and then why did you give them this like popularity contest basically to do when it's like you know that it's already a low popularity event.
Yeah, it's probably a good point, but like it's probably like you mentioned before is like a perspective perception kind of deal.
Also, I could be wrong. I could be wrong about the 4-5 blind thing. This is just what I think. Yeah,
and the 4-5 blind is also like probably more people would think it's more of a practice of like
it's cooler
mental capacity.
Yeah.
No, not necessarily cooler. I would say it's a comparison between your mental capability versus feet dexterity.
Some physical.
In terms of like what would the appeal and what the skill would bring to the WCA, right? So like that's how you break it down. But I mean, in reality, honestly, Lucas and WRC gave this a really fair shake. This sounds like it makes sense to me. This is what I remember, like vaguely. They decided in 2018 that it was not enough time. to shortly announce that in 2019, the feat is going to be removed. This is November 2018. So, and then in fact, it should not be a promotion of the event too. Like, say, like, if feat, like, you tell everyone in the world, if feat doesn't hit certain metrics, like, we have to remove it, so everyone will just start signing up for it, kind of. You needed to let it naturally nurture its community, right? That's, like, definitely something that I think makes a lot of sense. But we gave it another year to grow and nurture, and I think that was like it sounds like it makes sense to me, because there was a lot of confusion of when feat would be removed, not if, but when. Like, if we're going to start doing this, when is it going to happen? So yeah, and then 2019, the entire year happened, and then it was removed in January 1, 2020.
I do feel like there was a very slight uptick in activity right at the end. Like, I remember there was a world record on the last week.
And and then what the board was looking for was that to happen, like,
earlier,
not at the end. You know?
I mean,
it's
the procrastination classic, right? Like, you know, like...
Yeah, it's a procrastination classic. Right?
Project is due, like, 3 days from now. That means I'm going to do it 3 days from now.
But like I said, the hardcore feat people, like, they probably supported it through the entire thing. I'm not questioning that. It was really more so, like, maybe organizers, like, holding, like, let's hold feat one last time, and, like, to show that the feat's worth it. Or, like, competitors competing in feat, saying, like... Or people just making posts saying, like... We gotta keep feat. It's super important. We can't just remove it. It's too quick. So I don't know, but I just wanted to check the facts on, like, what was said on GitHub and the WCA, and that's what I pulled up.
Okay, well, good.
Yeah.
Good to have excellent reporting as always from Mr. Michael Chai.
This last part actually wasn't opinionated, which is very new.
Well, it's probably good, right? Because I mean, yeah, it's unique for us.
Now bringing you Overinspected News. What if we start launching new videos on our YouTube channel, just like news?
That would have to be like research, and if it were wrong, then that would be a problem. Like when you launch an opinion piece, you aren't obligated to be right. But if you do news, it's like, oh, that's not accurate. I'm not gonna watch something that's inaccurate. Yeah, fake news. I'm not gonna watch fake news.
Oh no. Yeah, we don't want to get our we don't want to get our channel branded as a fake news channel.
A fake news thing. Yeah, that wouldn't be good.
Yeah, opinions. We're just you can't fake news opinions.
Yeah, you can't fake
not
opinions.
Really.
Well, I mean, you could have bad opinions.
You could have a bad opinion. Jinx.
Yeah. You could have very bad opinions. Okay.
Very bad opinions.
In the interest of not accidentally creating more fake news, I propose we end the podcast here.
Sure. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah, sure thing.
Episode 15 in the books. Yeah, so hopefully you extremely dislike all the things that we said, and that made you really, really angry. So you're gonna, you know what? You're gonna go like the video. You're gonna drop in the comments.
Dislike. It's fine.
You can dislike, yeah, because we won't see it anymore.
Oh, I know. No one else can see it though.
That's kind of weird.
Please don't dislike the video. But yeah, definitely go in the comments and be like, you guys are morons. Carrie, Manu, and Chai have no idea what they're talking about. As usual, a bunch of bumbling buffoons. And you know what? I'm gonna go in there. I'm gonna go in there with the CubersLive account. I'll give you a heart. Okay. So if you type that we're dumb in the comments, then I'll give you a heart for it. Sure. Right.
Man,
is the next heart everyone who insults you?
Yeah.
Is the next podcast gonna be even more controversial? I guess you gotta tune in to find out.
We had 2 controversial ones in a row, so we have to, we can't do 3 in a row. We have to go back to a tame, respectable
I know.
episode.
The next one, who is the worst overinspected host?
Stay
tuned.
Next week
coming
out 2 options because we can't say ourselves. I think.
Well, I mean, you could say yourself. But anyway, yeah, this is coming at you next week, Saturdays at noon Pacific time, right here on the CubersLive channel. We hope to see you then, everyone.
Next week is gonna be who's the worst host. I love it. It's locked in now, isn't it?
Big drama. We gotta do it. All right. Anyway, ta-ta. Bye-bye. See you next week.
Bye, everyone.